But anyway, let's get into Real Housewives of SLC. I know you have not liked this season as much. I enjoyed the season to some degree, but I agree with you. I think last season was so good, and honestly, every season up to now has been so good, that this season was fine. But I feel like so much of the conflict was about things that either we didn't see or were off camera, or people were at a heightened level because we didn't know about a different issue, that it was very difficult to follow the reasoning behind everything as a viewer until this. And then I honestly have been pretty unimpressed by the reunion. But I'll let you give your recap on SLC.
Well, biggest thing that is lacking in the season is they're all going through things, but they're not sharing what's going on. And now we're getting like bits and pieces through this reunion of like, oh, well, this is why Whitney was activated at times. This is why Meredith was like, and they even talked about, which I really appreciated for maybe the first time ever, a little bit about like how production works.
Mm-hmm.
And how it's the job of production to get them to talk, to get them to expose. And they actually view production as their teammates, because if their show sucks or they don't share, they know that they're going to get canceled, which will affect their livelihoods and all this. And so Meredith has been notorious for blaming things on production.
Yeah.
And the other girls don't like that, because in their mind, they view it correctly. Production is a member of our Real Housewives of Salt Lake City team. Yeah. They want us to do well. They want this show to be good. And that sounds like something that comes from Andy, honestly. Mm-hmm. There's like, if you want to stay on TV and you want to be relevant, you need to lean into production, not hide from them.
Right.
And so I did appreciate that. That was probably the coolest thing that came out of the episode last night.
Mm-hmm.
We back still 3 episodes in, still talking about this plane incident, still talking about Meredith. Did she have 1 drink? Did she have 2 drinks? Was it mixed with pills? Like, I really don't. They went around at the Summer House premiere asking for hot takes, and I said #believe Meredith Marks. That's what I said.
Are you still on that? Like,
I'm
you still feeling
on it.
That way?
What could she possibly have done that we don't have any footage of this? And even in the last episode, they admitted that the plane was landing when all of this happened.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't believe it. I just don't believe that it's as egregious.
Yeah, it did go from someone saying that it was like hours and hours to it was on the descent, which we know is like typically half an hour. An hour to a half hour, depending on like where you're from. And I'm like, what are you talking? Like, I don't know. And I frankly don't care anymore. I've lost the ability to give one single shit about it.
Yeah. And
I'm
that's
done.
Another thing. The whole Britani, it just looks pathetic in the whole thing.
Oh my God, she's so annoying.
It's very bad. And then just eventually goes like, we're going to drop it. I'm sorry for what I did. Because I think she knows it's a big nothing burger.
Well, and then her talking about how I saw her daughter go on maybe reality or something. And she was saying that like her mom and her were supposed to have like BravoCon girls trip. And then what's his name? Osmond shows up and she got really mad. And she's like, and so when Andy asked Britani about it, Britani was like, yeah, it's just like really hard. Like, I'm trying to date. I'm trying to be with my girls. But for the first time ever, I spent Christmas with my girls. And I'm like, okay.
Brandy.
All right.
Brandy.
Priorities. Come on, girl.
You're in our DMs all the time.
Baby girl.
We appreciate you, baby. But
we do.
This is pitiful mothering behavior.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
The girls are asking for a weekend, a few days.
And it's also BravoCon. What is that fool gonna do there?
Oh, he was eating it with a spoon. The minute we saw him walk down, and he was like trying to walk down literally a center aisle so that he could be seen by everyone during one of the panels.
He's a sicko. I know. He's off.
Someone came up to give a picture, and he was like, oh, I guess.
I think another big part was we kind of got some insight into the Lisa and John trouble.
Yeah.
And Lisa went full victim mode on this.
Yeah.
And was basically like, he was disrespectful to me, and I basically had to go and like be alone by myself for hours, and everybody was like, I didn't get that impression from what we saw on the show. It just seemed like he wanted you to listen to him and what he was saying. And then they showed the clip, and I'm like, wow, like that even, I think because of her reaction to it, it made it seem bigger it was, but he was just like, can I talk for 5 seconds and you actually listen to me?
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, like, when Lisa gets on a spin and she just is just talking and talking and talking, I don't know how you would get a word in edgewise.
I don't think he does. And I think someone said this, like, if this is the meanest thing John's ever said to you, certainly on camera to embarrass you, like, what a saint.
Literally. All the other men have done much worse.
Yeah, like, seriously. But I mean, I do feel sorry for Lisa sometimes. I mean, she just projects so intensely, and then when it comes back on her and people are literally just saying like, hey, it'd be great if you could shut up and listen for a second, and she takes it so personally and sobs, and it's like, girl, they are not asking for a lot. They're really not. But she is either talking and yelling or disassociating completely and doesn't know where she is. There's no in between.
I mean, it's wacky. It's wacky. And last night you see it and it turns on and turns off. Like,
like
she immediately was like, yeah. And granted, I mean, there's a lot of editing and stuff. They were in there for hours and hours, but it's hard to edit around insanity. And
well, speaking of making something about yourself, what do you think about Whitney hijacking Bronwyn's conversation?
Whoa, just whoa. And I don't know if I couldn't tell if the plan, at least in Whitney's mind, had been to eventually bring some of this up and kind of create her moment. And we're getting towards the end, and then Bronwyn drops this bomb, and it's like she was crying because she wasn't going to get her moment of talking about what's going on with her and her husband, like in the same way. Like, she had kind of like said, we're having like some marital woes. But once that bomb drops that Bronwyn and Todd are not together anymore, like Whitney saying that her and what's his name are working through some things just doesn't have the same spin to it. You know what I mean?
I think she was genuine in crying. I think it really did trigger her. But I think you said something last night that was true. Like, when she said, I'm the one who keeps messing up. It's like, is she cheating on him and he's finding out and she's afraid that he's gonna like be Bronwyn to her? Like, finally watch this back and have enough and be like, it's over.
Well, we do know that she is, I mean, there are rumors of that already. There were at BravoCon and some things like this. And it seems to me that she kind of has one foot out, like, I think brought on by a lot of things that he did too, like almost ruining her business and all these things. She's kind of had like one foot out, kind of playing around with the idea of not being with him anymore. And I think they are working on it. But I think that that's kind of, even her conversation during the season with Bronwyn about their marriages kind of puts the idea in your head that she's kind of toying with the idea of like opening up the marriage or possibly getting out of the marriage, or in the future at some point she will have some dalliance. Like, she's talking about that openly. Yeah. So I can't imagine that it's in the best shape right now anyway.
Well, and her having to like go back there and hug him and all of this, I'm like, okay, it's a little on the nose, but sure. And Heather's face the whole time she's talking looked like, don't reveal your secret. Like, it was a very bizarre editing thing, and I don't know if that was a real reaction or an edited reaction, but it was weird.
Well, I assume because Heather and Whitney are related, right?
Yeah, they're cousins.
That maybe she has a little more information, and she was almost trying to kind of communicate with her eyes and face, like, don't take your moment right now. Don't take your moment right now.
Yeah,
and
like, rein it in.
She couldn't help it. She had to do it. And that, it was not like, I think they handled it okay in the editing, but she edited herself there into a very bad position of looking like she's trying to steal Bronwyn's, like, very reserved moment of, like, explaining what's going on in her relationship.
And Bronwyn's talking about such serious things, like the passing of her father, the way her mother is essentially putting her faith in her Mormonism before her when she's speaking to her, how she's dealing with the aftermath of the show, of the fact that her mother blames her for the blowback from her mother's own actions. how watching the show back, like, broke Todd, how she realized, like, she was stuck in this holding pattern with how people were talking to her.
And that gives him, like, honestly, I feel for Todd
Yeah.
because I'm sure his edit is, he's got a villain edit, and it's an easy edit to give him because he's not really that involved. He doesn't want to be involved in the show. And then he looks unsupportive, even though he's probably looking at his wife devolving in front of him, despite all their issues. And I think there's part of that. I think he's also just a very private person. So I think he gets this really bad edit. And there are all kinds of things that she even brought up about him taking care of her mom and dad, making sure that there was never a financial problem, like all of these things he's done for them. But if he's just watching the show, and he never had, there is not an episode where Todd comes out looking like a good guy. It doesn't exist on the show. So none of that was shown.
Well,
you
it's
hear
bad
Bronwyn maybe
too.
talk about it, but that's it.
It's bad because not only did he go back and watch the show, but she said he was, like, reading every Reddit thread, which that is a terrible idea for anybody to do who's in the spotlight. That's just a recipe for mental breakdown.
Well, Todd doesn't strike me as a man who's doing a lot of therapy work. And
he's not of the therapy generation, as it were.
And I think that was like a self-hatred spiral.
Yeah.
Is what it seemed like. Like,
yeah.
He was ashamed, and then he fed the shame machine, and then he went down. He just kept going and kept going. And I mean, I'll be interested to see what happens. I mean, she didn't shut the door on the relationship, but it seems like she has kind of moved on.
Well, now they're apparently living together again, like cohabitating.